hot seat, let's go. Yeah. I said, get in the hot seat, let's go. No, or somebody was signing up.
Yep.
Karen.
Okay.
Had a good week.
Busy.
Me too.
That was the rest of your Easter.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. I went home and fixed us some chicken supreme wrapped in bacon, sour cream,
Good day.
and mushroom, and then I fixed cabbage, mashed potatoes, and we dipped in all day long, and got in the hot tub. Shoot, we watched the game. I'll tell you one thing, they put it to.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Pittsylvania County's Planning Commission. This April the 6th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Mr. Harker,
Here.
Mr. Dudley,
Present.
Ms. Meese,
Present.
Mr. Haymore,
Present.
Mr. Horn,
Present.
Mr. Stowe,
Present.
Mr. Waters,
Present.
Ms. Henderson.
Let the record show 7 present and 1 absent, Ms. Henderson. Hearing of the citizen. Each person addressing the Board of Hearing of the Citizen shall be a resident or landowner in the county and registered agent of such a resident and landowner. Each person shall step up, give his or her name, district, in an audible tone voice for the record, unless further time is granted for the chairman, shall be limited to 3 minutes. No person shall be permitted to address the board more than once during the hearing of the citizens. All remarks shall be addressed to the board as a body and not to any individual thereof. Hearing of the citizens shall last for a maximum of 45 minutes. Any individual that is signed up to speak during this section who does not get the opportunity to do so because of aforementioned time limit shall be given speaking priority at the next board meeting. Absent the chairman's approval, no person shall be able to speak who is not signed up. Mr. Sheldon. Good evening, Mr. Sheldon.
Yes. Okay, my name is Patrick Sheldon. I live in Greensboro, but I have property here in Pittsylvania County, lived here for close to 50 years. But I applied in January sometime for a building permit, and I had to supply a site plan. I did that, and Mrs. Hayes and Mrs. Ragsdale told me that I didn't have enough parking to satisfy the requirements. So I didn't know what the requirements were. She made me a copy of your regulation. I read the regulation, and they said that it was 30, and I said, well, show me where it's 30. And they really couldn't point out one that says 30, and you have that in front of you. And I pointed out, after I read the regulation, I said, if you look to the last sentence, number 6, in the regulation, it does lay out whose responsibility it is to set the parking for something that's not laid out in the written regulation, and that is you gentlemen right here. So, I'm not going to be able to tell you the whole story, but that's the gist of it. What I would like you gentlemen to do is what your regulation states. And in number 6, it says, for uses which are not covered above or elsewhere in this ordinance, minimum parking requirements shall be determined by the Planning Commission. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. It's your responsibility. And I just hope that we can, because we've been messing with this since middle of January. I thank you for your time.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sheldon.
Does anyone want to ask me a question?
Mr. Sheldon, we think that you're going through it the wrong way. We think that you should be going through the Board of Zoning Appeal and asking for a variance.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, we think that you're going through the wrong route, that you need to be going to the Board of Zoning Appeals
Well,
and get a variance on it. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney?
well, but the regulation states that if the parking requirements as defined in the sheets I've given you, that's your regulation. And if you read it, mini storage is not addressed in the 3 pages of your regulation. However, number 6 does address it. It says for other uses which are not covered above, that that parking requirement shall be determined by the planning commission. It doesn't say any other commission. You're the planning commission, correct? This is the right place?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know all the specifics, but if the zoning administrator has rendered an official opinion, his cleanest method to dispute that would be to appeal it to the BZA, and they either uphold the decision or they don't, and they kick it back to you guys. Is that your understanding, Ms. Ragsdale? Have you rendered a decision?
Yes.
I think we should make an appointment to meet with this gentleman outside this meeting, and we'll lay out the procedures for him to move forward with this matter.
Maybe set up a time with BZA or set him up in the schedule with them.
Okay. I can't hear a word they're saying. I'm sorry, gentlemen, I'm deaf. I can't hear what you were saying. It's too much.
I'll be happy to talk to you outside. You want to talk outside?
Yeah.
So we don't hold up everybody? What you drop the paper there, sir?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sheldon. Approval of agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the agenda as presented.
Is that second?
Second.
All in favor? We've got to go through the vote. Everybody vote. The record shows 7, 4, and 1 absent. Approval of the minutes?
They may need a second to get the computer system squared away. Kevin, do you need to redo that?
We'll change it first.
Okay. You can go ahead.
Just move on.
It's good?
Mhm.
There's a motion for the approval of,
I'll second that.
all in favor? Say aye.
Are
You
you all
haven't got the
pushing
voters?
the,
Is it ready now?
It's not coming
it's not
up.
coming up.
Okay, now it just did.
It did come up, okay.
Mine just came up to mover, is Richard Waters.
That's all.
I'll second it. I'll
make the second, just
so I second it.
There you go.
Nathan Harper.
Now it says Harper was the second.
All right, now we can vote.
Now, I see it.
Got it.
Let the record show 7, 4, and 1 absent. Chairman's report, I have no report.
Need to close the vote. Mr. Stowe, did you vote on that?
Not on this thing.
Okay. You see a green button to hit?
All right. Did it come through?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our second time with the new system, so bear with us, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Got Stowe on there now.
Got 7 right now.
Harker seconded. Showing him absent. Well, it was a beautiful day today. How about that?
How about the ball game?
Oh, my goodness. Mm. Did you watch the game last night? I mean Sunday night. Gonzaga. Well, last night. Okay, it's approved.
good?
7, yes, sir. 7 out of 8 approved.
The meeting now open for public hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to Article 5, Division 7 of the Pittsylvania County zoning ordinance, we, the Planning Commission, have empowered to hear, decide specific applications in support of said ordinance, and make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors and to the Board of Zoning Appeals. In accomplishing these important tasks, we are charged with promoting the health, safety, general welfare of the citizens of Pittsylvania County. We must ensure that all decisions and recommendations be directed to these goals and that each be consistent with the environment, the comprehensive plan, and the best interests of Pittsylvania County, its citizens, and its prosperity. Anyone here to speak to the board regarding zoning cases will be limited to 3 minutes. At 7:14, case R 21007 is now open for public hearing. Ms. Ragsdale.
Case R-21-007, Cornerstone Church of Christ has petitioned to rezone 1.74 acres located on State Road 703, Fairview North, in the Bannister Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District and A1 Agricultural District to A1 Agricultural District to combine with an adjacent parcel of land zoned A1. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, representatives from Cornerstone Church of Christ are here to represent the petition.
Representing the church, come forward.
I'm sorry, it's not R1 and A1, it's just R1 to A1.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Your name, sir?
William Randolph.
Mr. Randolph, do you have anything that you'd like to add that we do not have in our packet?
I don't believe so.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. This would be Ms. Henderson's. Can someone on her behalf? I'll close the meeting at 7:16 for a motion.
I make a motion, in case R-21-007, I make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Supervisors that this request be honored.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Meese and second by Mr. Stowe. Any further discussion? All in favor to vote?
Wait. Done now, okay. Then we got to vote.
All votes in. That's all of them.
Let the record show 7 for and 1 absent.
Have you got a case?
717, case number R21008 is open for public hearing. Ms. Ragsdale.
Case R-21-008, Gregory and Janie Robinson have petitioned to rezone 24.72 acres located on State Road 750 Oxford Road in the Callens-Gretna Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District and A1 Agricultural District to A1 Agricultural District to allow a second dwelling to be constructed on the property. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Robinson is here to represent the petition, I believe.
Mr. Robinson? Good evening, sir. Good evening. You have anything that you'd like to add that we do not have in the package?
No, sir, I think it's all there.
Any questions from Mr. Robinson?
No.
Thank you, sir. 718, case R21008 is closed to public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we approve the rezoning on case R21-008 from R1 and A1 to A1 agricultural.
I second it.
Second by Mr. Meeks. Any other discussion? Ready for a vote?
All votes in. Record the vote.
Let the record show 7 yes, 1 absent. At 719, case R21009, rezone 1.20 acres from R1 A1. Ms. Ragsdale.
Case R-21-009, Haley Gatewood Jr. has petitioned to rezone a total of 1.20 acres located on U.S. Highway 29 in the Chatham-Blair's Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to combine with an adjacent parcel of land zoned A1. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. Staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Hale Gatewood is here to represent the petition.
Mr. Gatewood. Sir, do you have anything that you'd like to add to other than what we have in our packet?
No, sir, except that the original property line on one of the properties goes directly through a workshop is reason this change in boundary lines needs to be changed. I appreciate y'all's consideration.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anyone have any questions, Mr. Gatewood? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
At 721, case 21009 is closed for public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the fellow members go along with me in approving this case, number R21-009.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harper. Any further discussion? Not, we're ready for a vote. One missing.
Missing you, I think, on there.
Is that what it says? Maybe I didn't hit it.
There you go.
There you go, 7. The record shows 7 for, 1 absent.
Very good.
At 722, case 21010, rezone .11 acres from A1 to R1.
Case,
Ms. Ragsdale.
case R-21-010, Mark Red has petitioned to rezone 0.118 acres located off of State Road 865 Chalk Level Road in the Bannister Election District from A1 Agricultural District to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to combine with an adjacent parcel of land zoned R1. Once the property is rezoned to R1, all uses listed under Section 35-222 are permitted. Staff summaries enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Mark Redd is here to represent the petition.
Mr. Red. Hey, Mark, how you? All right. Good. You have anything, Mark, you want to add to it?
No.
that we
No,
don't
sir.
have in the packet?
No, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Red? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
723, case number 21010 is closed to public hearing. Ms. Henderson is not here. Somebody on her behalf?
I'll make a motion, we approve the request as presented.
Motion by Mr. Stowe. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meese. Any further discussion? Not, we're ready to vote.
Got it right that time. All votes in, record
Let
the
the
vote.
record show 7-4, 1 absent. (724), case number 21011, rezone 44.30 acres from RC1 to A1. Ms. Ragsdale.
Case R-21-011, Jeremy and Julia Watson have petitioned to rezone 44.30 acres located on State Road 665 Rockford School Road in the Stanton River Election District from RC1 Residential Combined Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow for agricultural use. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. Staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Watson is here to represent the petition.
Mr. Watson. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, do you have anything you'd like to add that we do not have in the packet?
No, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Watson? Okay, you can be seated. We have some people that wants to. Faye Dalton. Good evening, Ms. Dalton.
Good evening. I live next to the property where Mr. Watson wants to have rezoned, and it was purchased as residential. It's been residential, and I have a nice brick home right next to it, and it's brick homes all around the area, and I just can't see a cattle farm being in the area. And what is the ordinance on the number of cattle you can have in a residential area if it's rezoned to agriculture? What is the number, what does the ordinance state? Y'all don't know?
So, under residential, agricultural cannot occupy more than 5 acres. If the property is rezoned to A1, he can have up to 300 cattle.
Now, how would y'all like to live next to a farm with 300 cattle and a nice brick home, and my other people here has nice brick homes around it? And, you know, what is the restrictions? What options do I have? It could be, it could be a hog farm. Would y'all want to live next to a hog farm? No. And will my real estate taxes come down? No. So what's the answer to that? No answers. Tim, what's the answer?
I think when you
You
get,
know where it is. You know the brick home I live in. You've been there. What's the answer?
I do know, but they just, when you come up to speak, you're here to make a statement on your behalf, and we're just here to listen to it.
And what, you know, what are my options? If you approve of, what options do I have for 300 cattle right next to me? And you know it's all brick homes around there, and you know how it is.
Anything else? Ms. Dalton?
And I mean, you can't, I understand he wants 10 to 15 cattle. Well, that is a residential zone. It was residential when purchased. So I don't see no reason for it to be converted into agriculture next to, residential zoning area. And I pay high taxes on my home, and that's gonna lower the value of my home.
How long have you been in your home, ma'am?
20 years.
Ms. Dalton, are you going to be next door to this?
Right? It joins. Right on top of it joins.
Anything else, Ms. Dalton?
So it could be up to 300 cattle bought in. Well, that's on 40-some acres of land. Now, Mr. Watson's a nice guy, no offense against him, but he lives 30 miles away. He's not going to be there to smell that smell, and we're going to be right on top of it. And I don't think y'all will come down on my taxes. If I do, I want it in writing.
One thing we don't have control over is taxes, that's for sure. Do I take care of myself?
And
Time is up, Ms. Dalton.
Yeah.
Warren Smith. Good evening, Ms. Smith.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
My name is Warren Smith. I live on Rockford School Road. My property will be located right across from where Mr. Watson plans to, he's already purchased the property, but my property is right in front of what he plans to do. And I would like to say that I have lived in this community for 58 years. It is a residential property. It's a clean property, no odors, really clean. And it consists mainly of ranch-style homes, senior citizens, and retired people. We enjoy sitting on our porch, smelling the fresh air, opening the screen doors to whatever. And that's the way we would like for it to be, if possible. We're not here to cause confusion, but just to state our wishes, and we would wish that our property and the community remain the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith. Is it Ruby Wilson? Good evening, Ms. Wilson.
Good evening. My name is Ruby Wilson, and I too live straight across from this property. Been there 60-some years. And I wondered, did he know that this property was considered residential property when he purchased it? And we want to know what will happen to our property across. Is our taxes going to go, is the value of our land going to go up or go down? Is the taxes going to go up or go down? And so far as this listing of the 35-176 are permitted, we had some problem trying to see what's under that. So I want to know what's not permitted to be grown on the farm. And since Mr. Watson doesn't live in our area, whatever he chooses to put on that property, if it gets out and come over on my property, on our property, then what is does he have someone in place that we ought to contact? Or what are we to do? And you know, today, people are so quick to shoot and do so. If it's hogs or cows or whatever, goats or whatever, they come over in your yard, they eat up your grass or whatever, you know. And so we have been there all this time, and we have not had any problem. And we were just like, we're not trying to make a problem for him, but we also have lived there all of our lives, you know. And if you don't live in the area that you fixing to put something in that area, then the people who live in that area is concerned about what he's, and I know that's his property, and maybe he said, I have a right to put whatever I want, but we have property too. And I feel like we have some rights too. And I hope you all will consider that in your decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Ma'am, you rather have the livestock as a farm, or rather have a house trailers across the road?
Would I rather have livestock or what?
The house trailer is already zoned to put a trailer over there.
She didn't understand.
I didn't hear what he said.
Do you rather have the livestock with the farm, or put a trailer over there on that property?
Put a trailer over there? Well, no.
It's already zoned to put a trailer over there.
It's already zoned to put a trailer over there? They, well, see, like I said, nobody had discussed, you know, what this was, and we'd had a problem trying to pull it up on the thing. And livestock is called know what it is, you know, that's across from you. Some things, if it's a pig hole, a pig farm or whatever, they draw flies. Because at our church, they have put manure on the pasture, and we had a problem with outside church Sunday for flies, you know. So they do draw these things. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. James Wilson. James, how are you, sir?
I would be speaking on behalf of my father. Out of everybody in this general location, we own more property on the front than anybody else. The gentleman, to me, broke some type of trust and faith. He came to no one in the community to give us the intent of what he wants to do with the land. Some 45 years ago, my uncle attempted a hog farm, and it lasted for maybe 2 to 3 years. But the scent, the odors, the flies were disgusting. I have a father that's 85 years old, who's lived there all his life, and he's on oxygen 24 hours a day. I don't know what the gentleman's intent to do with the land. It would have been more professional to me if he would have approached us before this came about. So if you're asking a question to my mother, I would prefer a trailer cross than to smell cows, goats, chickens, and anything else, simply because I grew up farming, so I know what farming is all about. So this gentleman knew what he was buying before and knew what he was getting when he purchased the property. He knew what it was zoned and how it was zoned. It was residential, and on behalf of the people in our community, we're a close network community. We build our lives off of trust and faith. We've seen each other's kids grow up, die. We supported each other. We've shown love. We've kept a nice, clean community. No crimes, no violence, of anything else. So at this point, I would like for us to continue on the path that we've been, because sooner or later, I don't know if the gentleman, something happens to him and he passes on, then someone else has the land to do agriculture or whatever else they want to. So at this point in time, I wish you would take it in consideration for the people who've lived in this community for months and months and years, and we stuck together through thick and thin. And I'm opposing this transaction altogether. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Barry.
James Gibson.
No, we must have signed
Jeremy Watson. Watson, do you want to say something there?
I'm sorry.
Did you want to add something else? I saw you signed up. I didn't know.
Well, no, I guess I misunderstood that I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and I understand completely where it would be a concern to anybody. I mean, obviously, I work a full-time job. My intentions is not to have anything large scale down there. I mean, we've got 4 kids. We bought it hoping to use it for agriculture, for our kids to grow up and learn what it was to take care of agriculture. I mean, so that's the intent, is just to, we would like to have a couple cows. I mean, there's about 18 acres in pasture, so, I mean, good agricultural practices, I'm kind of limited to maybe 10 to 12 cows anyways. And so that's all. I mean, that is our intent to do it. It's not to do anything on a large scale. It's definitely not to cause any problem in the neighborhood or anything like that. And it is true that we don't live down there. I mean, I'm down there frequently, but it's definitely not to cause any harm to any neighbors or anything. It's really just an opportunity to try to do something for the kids, to have a little bit of agriculture in the family, and that's it.
All right. Any questions?
Mr. Watson, if you don't mind just hanging on 1 second. Ms. Ragsdale, how many cows can he have as a zone now? How many acres can he graze? I'm sorry.
So he could have less than 5 acres that he was using for agricultural purposes.
Okay. So, Mr. Watson, you have 5 acres available to you now.
Right.
Would
I
that
guess it was-
suffice? Would that accomplish what you want to accomplish, which is to have a little bit of livestock on the land, while also keeping it zoned the way it is, keeping your neighbors happy with them not worrying about a large-scale cattle
Right.
operation coming in?
I guess what I understood when I called and asked about it is, since I do not live on the property, I'm not allowed to have any animals on the property, period.
Okay.
Since I do not reside on the property.
That's correct. So it would have to be incidental use.
I got you. So, just to kind of, what is your source of water for livestock on the property?
So we do have a creek that runs through there. We've got a well that's on the property right now, and we've worked, with the Agriculture Extension Service and stuff to look at some ideas that we could do if we are able to do it that way. And it definitely wasn't the intent not to try to share it with anybody. I mean, we weren't trying to.
Yeah, absolutely.
We weren't trying to hide it by any means. I mean, I've talked to many of the neighbors, and it's very possible that I had not brought up what my exact intentions were. I guess when we bought it, we bought it with the thought that the rezoning wouldn't really be an issue, because the intent wouldn't be. The intent wouldn't be to do anything harmful to the area. I mean, we've really actually spent quite a bit of time and money trying to clean the property up really nice and stuff over there right now too. But I mean, I do understand where if somebody brought, if I could indeed put 300 cattle on there, I would understand where that would be an issue. But I mean, like I said, by good practices, I mean we'd never have the ability to do anything like that, nor would anybody else. And actually, the property that butts up against me has cows on it. I'm not quite sure how many he has, but right in the corner of Rockford School and Dewberry, he's probably got 15 or 20 cows on that, and that butts right up against my property.
Yeah.
And there's several other properties that are zoned agricultural right around there. But like I said, I mean, my intent is definitely not to come down and harm the neighborhood in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It's really just to be able to have an opportunity to do something with my family that that would get them into agriculture and kind of let them learn what it means to be involved in working instead of playing video games.
I definitely understand that, and I can sympathize with you and the neighbors. How long have you owned this property?
We just purchased in November.
Okay, and you were aware of the zoning?
That's right, yeah,
zoning.
because I called before we did, when we were getting ready to purchase the property, and I think it was Miss Vaughn that I worked with, and she helped me get the paperwork filled out that I would need to, and to get it rezoned. And I guess which maybe it was a bad assumption, was that so many of the properties right around me were zoned agricultural that it wouldn't be as big of a deal, and especially having cows that butt up against my property there,
Right.
that it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But
Mr. Watson, do you have you entertained the idea of someday moving onto the property yourself?
Yes,
with your
sir.
family?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we have 4 children. They are in private school in Madison Heights, or it's a homeschool cooperative that they're in. So it's a long drive from there back up. But I mean, as our kids get older, that's definitely what we would like to do, is to sell and build there on the property. I mean, it's definitely not to, we definitely didn't purchase it just for the sole intention of letting it sit there and never live there. I guess, you know, right now with my children being young, though, that was the reason we purchased it, because now's the time to try to get them involved in things like that where, you know, where they kind of grow up. I mean, I've 2 sets of twins, a 7-year-old set and a 5-year-old set. Wow. And so it kind of keeps them engaged in that. But yeah, I mean, it is our intention to hopefully move down there one day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I mean, you understand that it could be a problem if you intending for the livestock to drink out of the creek?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we understand. And like I said, I have spoke several times with the Agriculture Extension Agency and Soil and Water Conservation just to kind of move that. And I grew up, my granddad farmed, so, you know, we had cattle as I was growing up. So, yes, sir, I am aware of that. And that's why the intent, you know, would be to work with Soil and Water and with the Extension Agency to get them migrated out of the creek into some type of waters.
Mr. Watson, you don't have an intent of having a large-scale cattle farm, correct?
No, sir. I mean, and like I said, in all honesty, by using, I mean, good agricultural practices, you know, even if you follow the 2 cows per acre, I mean, it only
10 would be your limit.
Right. I mean, I'm limited to 10, maybe 15 cows. Mm-hmm. My grandparents raised hogs when I was growing up, and I'm never doing that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it is really just to give the kids an opportunity to have a few cows, to sell them, to learn how to do something like that. You know, it's definitely nothing, you know, that I have any intentions of ever doing anything large scale. And, you know, I would even be happy to try to section it off and keep the cows towards the back of the property, not right up against the road. I mean, like I said, there's definitely no intentions of doing anything large scale or doing anything that would cause an issue in the neighborhood.
Well, the land's not there really for a large scale anyway.
No,
so.
sir, that's right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's kind of divided up into 1/3 pasture, 2/3 woods. And I mean, my intent's not to go in there and clear the woods out at all. I mean, really, I'm just trying to thin them out right now, get some of the underbrush out, make the property look nicer. But I mean, like I said, I do have a full-time job as an engineer, so
yes, sir.
My goal is not to, would not to be do anything that I can't take care of.
Okay.
Mr. Watson, that was my concern. Certainly now you have good practices in mind to limit, but what my concern would be is in the future. Suppose you resold that.
Right.
And they did bring in more than just a few cattle.
Right.
That would be my concern.
Yeah, and I
Obviously,
I can't speak to that. We have no intentions of selling it, but I also don't know what tomorrow holds either. I mean, if I was to pass away and my wife couldn't take care of it, then that's obviously a chance. But I think that goes for any of the agricultural properties that are zoned around there. Anything zoned agriculture, if someone was to purchase it, they could come in and, you know, do whatever. I don't think that's really limited just to this property.
It's like Mr. Dudley said, if it's only 1/3 of it, you're saying pasture, then it would never be a large number of cattle.
No, ma'am, that's right. And not unless somebody wanted to go in there and clear cut the entire property, which, I mean, I would hope not. It's a beautiful place. But that's correct. I mean, this is not set up to be a large-scale cattle operation. I mean, this is set up, you know, our intent is to just have it for our children to do something, and it's definitely not to have anything large scale, nor does the property warrant having anything large scale.
Vaden, got a question for you. Is it something that we can put maybe in language stating that, you know, this will not be a large scale and it'll be a certain number? You tell me.
Well, this is rezoning, so you can't put conditions on it, but you can ask for him to put proffers on it. He's never going to be able to do a large-scale agricultural thing because he doesn't have enough property, and what are they called? CAFOs require a different zoning?
So, anything over 300 cows is considered intensive livestock. He has to have at least 100 acres to have that. So he could never get to what we consider intensive livestock.
You could ask him to proffer. It's his voluntary statement. You can't force him. This is not a special use. No hogs and no more than X cows.
Yeah, I think that would be good if he would agree to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy
And
to
if
do
our
something.
citizens was good with that, you know, because these
I
folks
wouldn't
have
want-
been here for years. you
I'm
know.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. You're good.
I wouldn't want to limit it. I mean, because, you know, I would like maybe to have a couple goats or something like that too. I don't know that I'd want to limit it to just cows, but I'd be happy to put a number on it. I mean, obviously, I'd like it to be a reasonable number, but I'd be happy to, I mean, if that would help, I'd be happy to cap it at something. Like I said, to cap it at a certain number of animals.
Mr. Watson?
Just to be clear, if he's going to proffer,
Yes.
we need him to write it down.
Right.
You need to sign it, and this needs to occur before you vote on this, because if not, we got to re-advertise this and go back to the drawing board.
Okay.
And are you considering having your fencing at the back side of your property? I think you mentioned that just a while ago.
My intention is to fence the whole property in, but I'm also planning on cross-fencing part of the property too. I mean, there again, I guess I don't necessarily want to limit myself, because if you get in a position where your grass has gotten eaten up in one and you have to turn them out into another pasture, I don't want to limit myself on that, obviously. But like I said, if the number would help, I'd be happy to, if that would, you know, make it more agreeable, I'd be happy to put a cap on the number. Like I said, I would just like it to be a reasonable number so that, you know, I'm not stuck where I can only have 2 cows.
What do you think is a reasonable number, Mr.?
I mean, I would be happy at capping it at 25. And as I say, with no intent of actually even putting that many on, I think that prevents any type of large scale.
You know, I guess I say it at almost every meeting. It's a shame that we're here. There's no reason for 44.30 acres to be zoned residential. I mean, I think I've made the statement a few times that I had a surveyor to come in the office and tell me, he said that the county should have filed a lawsuit for malfeasance of office for the way that they zoned the county. And here's a perfect example of 44 acres zoned residential. I mean, it just...
And there again, I guess that's why we had the feeling like it wouldn't, you know, like the rezoning of it wouldn't be an issue. But but I do understand not wanting a large scale operation beside you. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. I don't even think I'd want to own a large-scale operation, period, and live on it. So, I mean, but like I said, you know, the smaller scale, I know that the cattle that butt up to my property, I've never smelled them, and I'm outside all the time on the tractor, my track machine, something like that, cleaning up, and they're a small-scale operation, so.
Mr. Watson, I'm unfamiliar with your property, unfortunately, but in looking at the map, it appears to me, I would say 60% is wooded. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of just, it's 1/3 pasture, 2/3 wooded. That's correct.
And the center part of the land appears to be what's open, and I'm unfamiliar where all of these houses are that we are speaking of here. Are they around the wooded area, or are they in the open area?
So Miss Faye's house butts up against the pasture side up at the top of the road. The Wilsons live directly across from where the pasture sits. So the house kind of sits back off the road. The woods are kind of the boundary that surround the back, more of the center to the back portion of the area. So it's a large buffer on each side there. But when you get into the front, the pasture runs all the way to the road, and it actually butts up against Miss Faye's property.
You figured on growing your own feed?
Well, I mean, we would like to do some type of crops too, you know, I mean, for instance, corn or something like that. I mean, we may bring in some feed, but there again, I mean, obviously we haven't necessarily worked out all the details. I mean, with our children, we're kind of trying to find something that would be a good fit for all of us, you know, and we want to do as much agriculture as we can stand to do, and Daddy not lose his job because he's spending too much time messing with it. So, you know, we definitely want to plant some, you know, a garden and stuff like that down there. Now, whether we decide to grow our own corn and stuff like that to feed our cattle, I'm not sure. But, I mean, the hope is, I mean, I actually even have the soil scientists coming out Friday to take soil samples to try to get the fertility up on the land. So the hope would be, and it would probably be more of a stocker operation that we're interested in anyways, running them spring to fall and then getting rid of them instead of keeping them through the winter, just because of the more intense, you know, hay and stuff like that that it does take to keep them through the winter. I mean, that's actually what we've talked to the extension agency about, is really just doing a stocker operation.
And you're not planning on making any money, you're just planning on spending money.
Right, I mean, we'd definitely like...
Old farmer who
Yeah.
that guy who's farmed all his life.
We would definitely like to make some money, but I think I definitely have spent a lot of money too. No, I mean, this is, like I said, this is definitely for, you know, to give the children an opportunity to make some money and stuff like that. I think I'll probably be financing more than I am making.
What buildings are currently on the property? It appears that something's there.
Yeah, so there's a house that was built in 1940 that's still on the property. That has electricity to it. There is a house that was built, I'm assuming, somewhere back in the mid to late 1800s. I know in talking to Mr. Wilson, he said, I guess he's in his 80s, and he said the house had been there as long as he could remember. So my understanding is the house was built sometime back in the late 1800s to mid 1800s. And it's still standing, and actually it's in good shape. My wife likes to go pilfer through it. So, but livable property, I mean, both properties would have to have a fair amount of work done before they would be considered livable.
Any other questions for the gentleman?
No, I just have a comment, and that is, Mr. Watson, I appreciate you hearing us out and listening to us and listening to your neighbors. To be honest with you, when I reviewed your case, I never expected to hear any opposition to this, but your neighbors bring up valid points.
Right.
They're zoning residential right there, combined subdivision district. It's a big jump from that to A1 when you're kind of used to not having it right in front of you.
Right.
I know there's property that's adjacent to you that does have cows being grazed. It's already zoned A1.
Right.
Mrs. Meese brought up a good point. It's not about you so much as it is the future. We set a precedent when we rezone something.
That's right.
And I don't know what the staff's thoughts are, if they've changed, but mine have. And I'll tell you this, I'm inclined to vote not to approve it. Mm-hmm. You have options available to you, though. I think you'll learn if you don't know that. You are allowed to have some livestock if you live there. So,
right.
Recently purchasing the property, knowing the existing zoning, whether it should be zoned this way or not is irrelevant to me. I mean, I'm one, and most of the people on this committee will tell you, if a man wants to do something on his land, we try to accommodate that every chance we get. And there are loose ends in the zoning ordinances that don't make sense, and we've cleaned a lot of that up in the 2 years that I've been on this board. We'll still have to do that. But that's where I'm coming from. I want you to know that before we make a motion and vote.
Right.
Understand what you're trying to do, and respect you for doing it.
Mr. Watson, listening to your comments and all, and I believe, that you don't want to have a large scope. Of course, you don't have the land for it,
Right.
But I also know these folks, and, they've got a valid argument, and I'm kind of leaning more towards the not approval of it, because of the existing where it is now. So that's where I'm at. Thank
Any other questions for Mr. Watson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Appreciate it. 757, case R 21011. This public hearing is closed.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Dudley.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion in case R21-011. My motion is that we deny this request as presented.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any other discussion? We're ready to vote?
Get it. It should be open to vote now.
So just a reminder, you are voting yes if you would like to agree with the motion of denial. Just a reminder.
Yeah. I think all votes are in, right? Record the vote.
They're not.
6 and 1.
Let the record show 6 yes and 1 no. This motion be denied.
That's it.
At 7:59, case 21012, rezone 56.13 acres from R1 to A1. Mr. Horn.
Y'all folks welcome to leave that was just here for that case. Thank y'all for coming.
Ms. Ragsdale.
Case R-21-012, Gentry Farms LLC has petitioned to rezone 2 parcels totaling 56.13 acres located on State Road 734 Clarks Mill Road in the Dane River Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow for agricultural use and an event venue. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, representatives from Gentry Farms LLC are here to represent the petition.
Evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your time. My name is R.J. Lackey. I'm an attorney representing Gentry Farms. I only have 2 real quick points to make, which is this used to be A1 before some zoning went back in some time in the county's history, and it abuts another property that's A1. Otherwise, I'm just here to address any questions or concerns that you may have.
Any questions for this gentleman? I think we know the deal, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. At 8 o'clock, case 21-012 is closed for public hearing. Mr. Horn.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. In the case R-21-012, I've known William Gentry for years, and this is a technicality because we'll see you again, Mr. Lackey, when you get your special use permit, I'm sure, for the venue. So in this case, R-21-012, I recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the property be rezoned.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Stowe. Any further comments, questions? Not, you're ready to vote.
Again, Mr. Chairman, this is another case where you get 56 acres in R1 residential, really?
Yes, I know.
If you're familiar with the property, I mean, it's just unreal.
Very familiar with it. Let the record show 7 yes and 1 absent. Be forward to the Board of Supervisors to be rezoned from R1 to A1.
Thank you, Mr. Lackey.
at 802, case S 21002, IPS Solar LLC, special use permit on 62 acres of land. Ms. Rexdale.
Case S-21-002, IPS Solar LLC has petitioned for a special use permit on one parcel of land, a total of 62 acres, located off Highway 40, East Gretna Road, in the Callens-Gretna Election District for a utility-scale solar energy facility. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, representatives with IPS Solar LLC are here to represent the petition.
Come around, sir. Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
So mainly I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. The main points that I'd like to bring up is that I know you've probably had some experience with much larger projects. While this is called a utility scale project, this is not the same thing as thousands and thousands of acres or hundreds of acres. This is something called community solar. It's called community solar because it's community oriented. The idea is that we have subscribers who subscribe to our gardens in exchange for bill credits. Generally speaking, this allows people that may not be able to either finance their own solar panels or if not, or maybe they don't have space to put their solar panel. It allows them to get some incentive for signing up for solar. This is a town project. I know that the town is very, very excited for it. It would be great to have the revenue come to the town for us renting the project. And most importantly, we want to be good neighbors. And I'm here I don't necessarily know or think if there's going to be any opposition. I think the site's great. I don't see any houses. But if there is, I'm here to discuss it with people and try to be good neighbors.
Any commissioners have any questions?
Yes, I do. Have you had any meetings with the surrounding neighbors or the community, and are they informed about exactly what you're doing?
So usually what I like to do is I like to have meetings a little bit before. Because of COVID, I wasn't allowed to come down here before and do that. That being said, I don't see any residents. I was able to speak with some gentlemen here who own some land around there. And to the best of my understanding, I know they're signed up to speak, but to the best of my understanding, they don't have any issue with it. Doesn't mean that I honestly don't know, but if there is, like I said, we'll address it and we'll do everything we can to make it a good fit.
How about mail? Have you sent letters to the landowners joining the property to notify them?
No, ma'am, we haven't. No, ma'am, we haven't.
Just asking, okay.
Is that something you're looking at?
To send letters?
Contacting all the neighbors,
Yeah,
letting them know what's
absolutely,
up? Okay.
absolutely.
Just make sure everybody that, has land joining it knows about it. Sometimes they don't.
And the great news with this particular project, so community solar, and I won't bore you with the details, especially because I'm sure many of you are already aware of a lot of the details, but community solar allows for a maximum of 5 megawatts. Generally speaking, that's about 30 to 40 acres of land. And, this is a little bit of a bigger tract than that. So, if landowners have some issues, we have some room to accommodate them. And, that's what we aim to do. So.
Any other questions from?
So are we voting on this project and you don't have any customers yet, or how do you go about getting customers?
So usually the customer process starts after we have plans for building. My understanding with the customer process is that that's relatively one of the easier parts of getting a project approved. And mainly that's because in order for someone to be a customer, all they have to do is just sign up. There's no money. It's not like they have to buy into the program. They just sign up and agree to get their power from our project. And when I say get their power from our project, it's important to know that this is a virtual thing, obviously. The power that comes from the project will go right into the actual power will go right into the substation and will feed the local community. But it's a virtual bill credit thing. So they sign up, we give them a rebate on their bill credits, And it works very similar to net metering would do with rooftop solar.
Do you have other projects like this other places, or is this your first?
Well, so this is our IPS's bread and butter. IPS has been around for about 30 years, which is a very, very long time for a solar company. To give you an idea, I think we have something like 92 projects throughout Virginia that we're looking to develop in different stages. That doesn't mean that all of them are going to be developed. Obviously, we call it the solar coaster. There's you know, always things that prevent projects and other things, but yes, you know, there's no, with community solar, there's not currently any community solar in Virginia because the program is new.
Will they have to go by the same stipulations as any other solar company?
Yes.
Yes, so the board adopted new regulations for solar in the fall of last year. We had already been working with this company and they had submitted applications for rezoning. We were in the process when those were adopted. So they are still grandfathered under our old regulations. So the conditions that staff is recommending are the same conditions that we recommend for all other solar projects that have come before you. There are no changes to what we normally recommend in what is being recommended to you all. So you should be very familiar with those, but they're the same.
One other small thing too, a lot of times when you see these bigger projects, you see inverters. In the inverters, sometimes they have to build out their own substation, and they have these big inverters. With our projects, that's not how it works. We use something called string inverters. They make less noise. Not that the other projects make a significant amount of noise, because I don't believe even the big inverters do, but this is even less noise than the other one, and you know, it requires significantly less infrastructure than having one of those, you know, 20 or 50 megawatt projects that you see.
Any other questions for this gentleman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. 809, case S 21002. It's closed for public hearing.
Well,
Ms. Meese.
Mr. Chairman, I was very, very impressed with the information that you submitted to the board. I mean, you included everything. Most of the things that the public is interested in, the landscaping, the fencing, the erosion, the security, the 24/7 security, the maintenance, jobs coming in to the town of Gretna, which we all need because of COVID. So many people have been laid off. So the little town of Gretna that we all love, it's in my area, we certainly want something good to come out of this. I just think it's a win-win situation. It's friendly to environment control. There's nothing that would be harmful to any of the citizens. And I just think it's good revenue coming into the town of Gretna. When you start employing people and you start working on it, people need food, they need gas, they need somewhere to stay. And that it will help our economy in Gretna. So we do appreciate it. And also you have the decommissioning in place. And I was very impressed with the information that you supplied. So therefore, in case S-21-002, the solar and the LLC, I make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Zoning Appeals that this request be honored.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Ms. Meese, second by Mr. Stowe. Is any further discussion? Not, we're ready to vote. Let the record show 7 yes, 0 no, and 1 absent. So in case 21002, special use permit be recommended to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
812, case S21003, the Dock LLC requests a special use permit for 23.25 acres of land. Ms. Ragsdale.
Case S-21-003, the docket SML LLC has petitioned for a special use permit on 4 parcels of land, a total of 23.25 acres located on State Road 626 Smith Mountain Road and Locust Lane in the Callens-Gretna election district for a marina and boat storage. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, representatives with the docket SML LLC are here to represent the petition.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. You can drop that, yeah, you can drop that where you can talk.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Wilson. I work with the ownership group that's part of the dock at SML. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission and Community Development Office, and Ms. Ragsdale and Ms. Hayes have been very helpful getting us to this point, directing us in the right path of what we would like to do. And I think most all the information is included in the packet. Big picture-wise, our group purchased this property around Memorial Day last year. The ownership groups had a marina in South Carolina in years past. Our managing partner in the ownership group came to visit Smith Mountain Lake the past few years, found out about this property, fell in love with it, couldn't stop thinking about it, knew it had been through a lot of transition over the years, and he wanted it. He wanted it for a couple of different reasons. One, he really liked the quaint family feel of Smith Mountain Dock and Lodge, as it was formerly called. I've spent a good deal of time there over the past year. I think pretty much every visit that I've had at the facility, it's usually the case where you see 3 generations of families coming down, grandparents and their sons and daughters or their grandchildren are coming down to feed the fish, look at the carp, take a boat out. The marina facility has been there 60-some years. It's been through ups and downs, highs and lows, good and bad. It had its heyday way back in the day, kind of went through some disrepair over the past few years. So that was our intent last year, to come in, really clean up some of the operations. We did some demo work, cleaning up some structures on the facility, on the site, that were really in disrepair, almost falling down and crumbling. One of those was an old boat storage shed where they used to store boats under a cover, and just some other buildings that were out of date and needed to be repurposed. And so that's what's brought us here today. After doing some of that cleanup work, really wanting to clean up the property, give it a fresh feel while still maintaining that quaint family feel environment, is we want to bring it back to life. We want to bring some covered boat storage back to the property. We've recognized the real need in the area for boat storage in general, whether it's on the water, and that's why you see part of our plans propose adding some additional slips as a part of the marina operations, and then a structure for covered or dry stack boat storage, which would cover your boats and then bring them down to the water for access. So that's why we're here. We're requesting your recommendation of approval for a special use permit to continue cleaning up the operations there, make it great once again.
Any questions, Mr. Wilson? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We do have some folks that signed up to, Ronald Root. Mr. Root, come around, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity
You're
to
welcome, sir.
speak with you. We live at 373 Locust Lane. The property in question has a long history of use as a marina and other boating facilities. We've used it. And we're in agreement with the recommendations of the staff on erosion control and health department regulations. The issue for us is Locust Lane. Locust Lane right now is a private road that is maintained by primarily the residents. In the past, the owners and operators of the marina have joined us in the maintenance of the highway and taking care of the road. Since the change of hands, the Locust Lane has deteriorated very seriously. If you drive it, lots of potholes. It's almost dangerous to drive. Now, we're looking to get that repaired and have assistance getting it repaired. There are 20 homes down Locust Lane that depend on that road for access to their homes. And it's getting tougher and tougher to manipulate that road. Now, with the special use permit, brings changes in zoning. A lot of legacy issues just because of when the marina started, when zoning regulations went into effect. I think you can verify that. Now, with the application for a special use permit, is going to require them to bring conditions in the marina closer to code or up to code. One of the issues that affects affects Locust Lane is my understanding with the zoning that's going to be involved is they have to have access via, and their main entrance needs to be via the state highway. And I think that's correct.
So we don't have anything in our ordinance right now that says that it has to be. Now, if they were to cut off another piece of property, then that property would have to have frontage on a state-maintained road. But as it stands right now, unless they subdivide the property any further and make cuts, they're not required by my office to have frontage on a state-maintained road.
So,
can you tie your comments down, please, sir? You've gone over.
okay, so our issue is we need some help with the road, and we'd like to have a stipulation that they have to have access to a state highway 696 right from the get-go.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Lloyd, is it Romeo? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Lloyd Rona, and I live at 341 Locust Lane. And I am right across the road from the property. All the other houses in our area are usually down by the water. When we built, and the regulations, so I'm right by the road. So I'm concerned about what's going to happen across the road. I want them to succeed, and looking at, we've seen some plans, but they have a whole lot of property. And so I'm concerned what they're going to be building later on. And so I would like, we are concerned about the road. We're concerned about what's going to go on over there. And, I want them to succeed, but I want them to know that we live there too. And so my concern is the keeping up the Locust Lane Road, or as they get larger, I think that they should be putting a private road off of 626 or Smith Mountain Road, because they own an awful lot of frontage on Smith Mountain Road. And so I think if it's going to be a commercial property, they should put their own road into their property, not off Locust Lane, which it's a private road right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
Questions, this gentleman?
No.
Thank you.
None.
No, sir. Amy Smitham? Good evening, Ms. Smitham.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I didn't realize we had 3 minutes, so I've got to make it quick. So I live on Locust Lane as well, and we've been excited about this project. I know Jeff, and I've met several of his cohorts that are some of the owners, so we're all excited about it. We were here, 8 months ago, talking about a variance. We were here for a variance that they were requesting. And with that, they submitted kind of a general overall plan of what this was going to look like. So we've been kind of excited. So some of the board members here asked us to, ask, I guess, Jason, who was presenting at the time, to meet with the homeowners. Why don't you just meet with them, tell them what you're looking at, blah, 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 so we could have some back and forth. That hasn't happened, so we've been disappointed. Found out about this meeting, and I thought, okay, we'll get to see what they're going to do. So unfortunately, that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at just the marina parcel, with the continuing of these other structures. When I look at what AEP considers these other structures, they're all what is called high density. Almost every single one of them is high density, even though it is boat storage and it is boat docking. What that means is trucks are coming in to bring those boats and families, and on Locust Lane is just a lane. That is all it is. It's a very small lane. When those boats come in with those trucks, if they miss the turn in to the dock, they end up going to a cul-de-sac, basically, which is someone's yard, and they have quite the time turning around. So therein lies the degradation of the road. So what we're hoping is, first of all, if we can't table it and ask for a submittal of the complete project, when I listened to you all talking about what the solar farm was having to do, and they've got this, buffer, and they've got this, we don't have anything. So we're not really looking at anything except a small portion of what this project's going to look like. So it's hard for us to kind of voice our concerns. However, if we're just looking at this once again and not going to look at it as a comprehensive project, still I think, and there are 2 accesses already off of Smith Mountain Road that go directly onto their property, I think that might be a better way for them to get to the marina, and instead of having to use Locust Lane. So,
Time's
having
almost
said
up.
that,
Thank you so much.
you are
Thank
quite
ma'am.
welcome.
Debbie Bull? Good evening, Ms. Bull. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Debbie Ford, and I live at 549 Locust Lane, which I am at the very end, so I am the cul-de-sac. And about, I guess it was 2011, all of us neighbors, everybody with the exception of the marina, because at the time they were going through like a bankruptcy, didn't have, one of the many exchanges with the marina. All the neighbors that we're talking about here, the private residents that live on Locust Lane, pitched in our own money, and we paid over, close to $30,000 to have our road done, all the way out to Smith Mountain Road, which includes a big portion that has been used by people coming into the marina. And it's not just cars, it's like they have 24/7 gas now, so there's gas trucks that come in, and, it does get a lot of wear and tear. So we do want it to succeed, and we would love for something to go in there, and we would, like them to be, but we want them to hold up kind of their end of the deal too. And I know when we were here back in August, that was one of our big concerns was the maintenance of the road. Well, it's the maintenance, not just the road, but the grass being mowed and everything. And since that time, I noticed that in the papers, it talks about, like, when we have this meeting, there has to be a notice come up 14 days prior, and it has to be taken down 14 days after, only by the person that put it up. Well, that was in August, and I believe that sign was taken down just so they could put the new sign up for this meeting. So we'd kind of like a little more attention to, and I walk so that is just at the end of the road, old sign, you know, that, so anyway, and another thing too is it is just a lane. I know on this exhibit, which was Exhibit A, and this was submitted by, you know, their planners, they actually call it Locust Drive on here. I don't know if that was by design or if that was by accident, but it is a very small private lane that needs to be helped maintained by a lot of the traffic that causes the most wear and tear on the road. So that could be, you know, something just to keep in mind. But
Thank
that's
you,
it.
ma'am.
Thank you. Did I make my time?
You
8
did.
seconds.
You did
ago.
great.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question, Mr. Chairman. Is Locust Lane paved, gravel, or?
Locust Lane is, what we did back in 2011 is we did crush and run. We did it on the entire thing. Everybody put in money to have the crush and run done, even though the part from Smith Mountain Road, the state-maintained road, to the marina entrance at one time was paved. So there was paving under the crush and run, but the paving was in such bad disrepair that now most of the crush and run has been, you know, it's gone, because eventually, and what's left underneath are some potholes that are pretty deep. Like, you can't drive the road without kind of going off into, you know, all sides just to keep from going in a hole. And then from that point all the way to the end, it's crush and run. We would like to, and we have talked to a lot of the neighbors, we would like to, and we're willing to go ahead and pitch in again and do the road, but we don't want to put any of our own money into it if it's just going to get torn up. So, you know, with all this new construction, I mean, this is phase 1. They're just talking about doing the docks by the water. But I think eventually, I hope, there's going to be like a restaurant and, you know, some of the stuff they've talked to us about. There's going to be a lot of construction trucks and stuff coming in just to make all that happen. So it's, you know, we're kind of, it's almost to the point, because I am at the end of the road, and I almost can't get to my house. The road was so bad. One of the neighbors was, the people that had the marina before, they used to take gravel and help fill in some of those holes. We still have access to our gravel pile. Jeff told me that because we had it delivered and it was sitting on their property, but a neighbor, you know, scooped some up and filled some of the crevices so that I could get to my house in the winter, because I am full-time there. A lot of people aren't, but a few of us are, and most of the people that are here today.
So just for the record, it's not state-maintained?
No.
It's a private lane?
It's a private lane, the entire thing. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. I have a email addressed to the Pittsylvania County Planning Commission on behalf of SMLL LLC. I would like to say we are hopeful for a successful transition and new enterprise at the dock at SML. As an adjacent property owner on Locust Lane, its success greatly impacts our investment. I feel in light of the proposed increase in the size of the marina and the additional truck hauling boats traffic it will create, we would appreciate the board considering an alternate access into the marina by utilizing one of the existing entrances of Smith Mountain Road, Lake Road, directly onto the dock at SML. From the water, I think this would be everyone's best interest to utilize additional no-wake buoys to safeguard all who are swimming, boating, and so forth. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Claude Hooper. For the record.
Mr. Chairman, I was asked earlier if residents couldn't come, if they could submit comments with residents that were attending. I'm not sure if any did. I didn't hear anyone that spoke say anything, so you may want to just check to make sure that there was not anything else submitted that we didn't hear.
Okay. Let the record show that this is the only document we received relating to S21003.
And Mr. Chairman, I had one sent to me personally that I was going to read, but maybe yours is different because it was addressed to the entire board.
Let's include that also. Ms.
Okay,
Nixon.
you want me to read it now?
Please.
Okay. If I can find it. I had a very nice conversation with Susan Snodgrass, and they have no problems with what he's doing, but they are too concerned about the road. And this is what she said. It was very nice speaking with you today. One matter we are very much concerned about, the use of our road, Locust Lane, for marina access. We would like the grant of the docks application to require that they use Route 626 as their primary access point. There is plentiful frontage on 626 for access, and the boat trailers are hard on our private road. This is not maintained by VDOT. She didn't say that, I'm saying that. Susan Snodgrass.
Mr. Wilson, come around, sir. You've heard these folks' concern. What is your comment?
Yes, thank you. First, thank you for the concern. I mean, we want to have good neighbors and be good neighbors. I think a couple of things we've thought about in terms of Locust Lane and the traffic. You know, we want to go in together as neighbors and figure out the upkeep. I think it's almost a two-phased approach, thinking about doing some additional work that we bring it up to speed so some trucks could get back there during the work. And then there's a sort of phase two of whether it's blacktopping or figuring out something else once the construction's done and big trucks are back in there done, that we can clean it up and have clean access for everybody. Because ultimately, it serves our purpose as much as our neighbors getting to the residences, that there's a clean, drivable Locust Lane for folks to access our property. The other component with the proposed addition of the dry stack storage, there is a component of that in the thought process and our hopes that the dry stack storage limits a lot of regular trailered boat traffic into the marina facility. So the marina facility has in the past had a ramp access where people could bring their boats down on their trailer, get them in the water. And so having that access means there's a lot more traffic. It's in and out frequently, many more boats coming in and out, as opposed to the dry stack storage, where ideally you're getting somebody in there, and sometimes, a lot of the times, the boats are coming off the water and going directly into the storage. If they're not coming off the water, they're coming in by trailer or truck, delivered to the dry stack, and then the transport back and forth is done. Their boats are delivered, they're there, the back and forth on Locust Lane doesn't happen anymore. So I just add that because that was part of the consideration, thinking through, should we, fix up this boat ramp that was used at one time and use that as part of the marina operations? And so we moved away from that and looking at the dry storage operations, and the traffic and road upkeep was certainly a part of that.
So you saying you are not going to have a boat ramp?
We are not. So part of our plans obviously have to go through AEP approval for what they're going to allow on the water. They've seen very similar plans that you've seen. Part of those plans, we don't have a final answer from AEP yet. We do have some comments back from them. They like the plans, but they have said, if we move forward granting a permit for the dry stack storage with an area to drop the boats in the water with the forklift, then we're going to ask you not to use the ramp. They don't want that dual traffic in that same general area, and they'd be too close to each other for AEP permit anyway.
Mr. Wilson, this is in my area. I live 5 miles from Smith Mountain Boat Dock and Lodge, and it has a lot of, it's very close to my heart because I was a teenager when that, and I know the original owners of that dock.
So you're telling me you've been down the water slides?
I have.
As have I.
The water slides was very big thing when I was a teenager. But Fred and Louise Munson started that. I don't know whether you know the story. And he came with a big company, construction company, and he had a vision. He saw what was going to happen to that lake. So he resigned from the company and stayed back here with his family. To my knowledge, I think that is the first boat dock on the lake. I stand to be corrected. But I have seen it through the years grow, and you really do have it looking nice. And I'm happy for you, and I'm expecting even more improvements from what I'm hearing. But I have not received any opposition other than the concerns of the Locust Lane. And I think your neighbors do want you to succeed, but that is of heavy concern to them. And you know, they keep putting out money, and this can't keep going up. So what can you offer us tonight before it's denied or approved that you are willing to see that you can help these neighbors on Locust Lane?
Well, I would offer that we want to be a good neighbor, and so part of that would be coming along with the neighbors if we, get to developing a plan as they've done in years past. I think 2011 that we be a part of that group to help maintain, upkeep, repair, and do that with sort of that planned intention or phased intention to, let's do what we need to do now. There's gravel on the property, as Ms. Ford mentioned, that we can do some minor repair now. Let's get it minimally working so that we don't have to go back and redo it after we have some construction trucks going through there. And then after the construction piece is done, figure out a more long-term viable plan in coordination with their neighbors too.
I think what they're asking for is for the dock access to be off 626, not on Locust Lane. Is that what I'm hearing? That's what they want. Are you willing to do that?
Not as the plans currently state. I mean, I think we could certainly look into, I know there was some comment about desire for a more comprehensive plan for all 23 acres on the site, and we're just not there yet. This is the plan that we've come up with that best suits the property, best suits the ownership's intentions now. Saying there is current access off of Smith Mountain Road, yeah, there's some tire track dirt marks of where something has driven back there. I would not drive back there. I don't have four-wheel drive.
I know that road is
So
very narrow.
I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that right now. But I think we'd feel much more comfortable working with our neighbors, being a neighbor, to use Locust Lane to the best we can.
Ms. Ragsdale, can you give us some input on how we could do that to make sure that it's...
If I may interject.
Yes.
This is not a rezoning. This is a special use. You're just making a recommendation to the BZA. Since it's a special use permit, it involves a more intensive use, and you can require a condition. So you can ask him if he'll do it or not, but that's really irrelevant. You can condition him, for instance, to the primary, for you to recommend this to the Board of Zoning Appeals, you can do that with a condition that the primary access be off Road X or whatever it is. So you can require him, place a condition on it for your recommendation to the BZA. Now, the BZA could either agree with your condition or disagree with your condition, but proffer is voluntary, condition for SUP is not voluntary.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Let's talk.
do you currently, is this SML dock, is it part of a HOA of any kind or any road maintenance agreement?
No, it's not.
That might be a good thing to look into. I
I
feel
would
like if
agree.
you spearheaded that, being the business down there, maybe your neighbors would come alongside you with that. Just a suggestion.
I like that.
Mr.
Yeah. You're operating a business there. Is any plans for a parking lot to park the cars or people coming?
For parking,
Yeah, people come down to go store the boats there. They gotta leave, come in, be 3 or 4 cars for each boat.
yes, sir. So in the Exhibit A, that Exhibit A sort of shows an overlay, sort of aerial shot of the current property with some of the proposed pieces on there. The proposed pieces do not take away from the current parking on the facility right now.
Okay. I think I was thinking of some restrictions on the business. This road that they have down there is just an access to the property. They really don't own it, and that type of thing. But is anybody know anything about a business operating on a private road, a private exit in and out?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
See, you run the business. People gonna pay you to leave their boats there. Is that that's right?
That's part of the marina, yes, sir.
Okay, it was a marina, okay. All right. Trucks have got to come in, bring bait and gas and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how long this road is from the public highway down to it. Because if they're gonna be coming in with trucks for fuel and stuff, that's rather heavy vehicles. The road's not gonna hold up with just a plowed road and put gravel on it. I was just wondering if, what I'm wondering is anybody here know anything about the law to run a business on a non-existent public road? Anybody know? Okay, I'm done.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
8:45, case number S21003. Public hearing is closed. Ms. Meese.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Zoning in case S-21-003 that this request be honored with conditions recommended by the staff with the additions that they use Smith Mountain Road 626 for property entrance.
Is there a second? For the lack of a second, is there another motion?
Mr. Chairman, I can't say that I really heard her that well. Could that be restated, please?
Okay.
You did not hear
Ms.
me?
Meese,
I could
do it
not.
again.
All right. In case S-21-003, I make a recommendation to the Board of Zoning that this request be honored with conditions of recommended by the staff with the additions that they use, the property owner used Smith Mountain Road 626 for property entrance.
You stipulated.
think Vayton said we can make the right recommendation. Is that correct? Did I word it correctly?
Yes, you can place a condition on it.
Okay, that's what I want to do. This is going to tax these people on Locust Lane. They already have been. VDOT there's no chance of them ever upgrading it. So now's the time. Do I get a second?
Is that a second? For the lack of a second, is the substitute motion?
Not for me.
How about legal, legal?
I don't know what else to do. That's how I feel about it.
Well, your motion failed for lack of a second. If there's no other motions, this board by law, and Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, they have 60 days to make a decision, or under the state code, this application, your recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals will be that it's approved. So you have 60 days to bring this back and make a motion, or you can dispense with it tonight. If you take no action after 60 days, your recommendation to the BZA is going to be one of approval. That's what the state code says, and that's what our county code says. Emily, do you have anything else to add? We went through this, you remember, with the Mountain Valley Pipeline situation several years ago, and there's been some other cases of this.
That's correct. If you did not take action on this, it would be a recommendation of approval as presented to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Mm-hmm.
So that would not be with the conditions recommended by staff. That would just be as presented.
Ms. Meese, I agree with your motion, but could we add another condition to where there's some type of a binding agreement between the landowners and the property owners to go in together to fix the road, Locust Lane?
Hmm?
It's gonna be a mess of traffic.
It's my understanding they do not want the traffic on Locust Lane. Is that correct?
I thought you had stated that if they would help you maintain the road, Locust Lane, it would be okay. Is that incorrect?
Sworn her motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Wait, just, let him answer Mr. Waters' question. See if he asked.
so
One, I have no dog in this fight and no vote. You could make a motion, it's up to you, that you recommend approval conditioned on the fact that they enter into a road maintenance agreement with the residents of Locust Lane.
That's what I was, yeah.
I didn't hear you, Van. Can you repeat that?
I'm just spitballing here, but you could, if it's acceptable to the neighbors. Remember, you're only making a recommendation to the BZA.
That's exactly right.
If your motion that required 626 to be the primary interest failed, perhaps you could make a motion, and you're the people getting paid the big bucks, not me, that you recommend approval of this SUP to the BZA conditioned on the fact they enter into a road maintenance agreement with the residents of Locust Lane.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this till next month's meeting, and I'll wait. If there's a second, then I'll make a comment.
Is that second?
Second.
Second?
Mm-hmm.
You did second. Any other discussion?
I have one thing, Mr. Chairman. Everyone here in this that's involved with this case seems like very reasonable, level-headed people. I feel like if it was me and I was putting my business on a lake down a private road, priority number one would be to make sure I have reasonable access and thinking about the growth of the business. Your neighbors seem to be welcoming this opportunity to have you in their neighborhood. I would suggest come to May's meeting with a updated application, updated special use permit application, having worked out some of these kinks, because we can't do that for you.
I think what they're concerned about, if they're going to expand, will the road be used even more, and now's the time to put it in place. I'm just listening to the people that are involved there.
There's a motion on the floor. Mr.
Did we get a
Chairman, it's been
second?
seconded.
Who seconded? Oh,
I second.
Mr. Dunley. Any other discussion? All right, we're ready for a vote. You know what it is to table it until the May meeting to see if the community there can work out something with Mr. Wilson on the road agreement. You understand?
Is that okay? Yeah.
All right, we ready?
Okay, you want me to make the motion again of that? Or is it already in place?
Vote's got to come through first, hang on. All right, you doing the mover?
Yeah, you do the mover.
All right. Wait till the second comes up and I'll hit it. There I am. All right, now we can vote.
Right. Let the record show 7 yes, no, 1 absent.
That this case will be tabled, correct?
Yes, it'll be tabled till May. Y'all understand what we've done? Good.
And then they have to get together.
So just to be clear, your direction to the applicants and the neighbors is get together and hopefully present some form of
Work it out.
compromise
Absolutely.
that can be discussed and potentially recommended at the May meeting.
That's correct.
And
There's
Emily,
something in motion. That's good.
okay,
Thank
so
you.
Emily, this will be on the agenda in May. I assume, will we have another public hearing, or will we just continue our?
No, we'll have another public hearing, so
Public
this will be
hearing, yeah.
re-advertised, so we'll come back to you as another public hearing. The neighbors will have another opportunity to speak to you on this case as well.
But the board's direction, if nothing changes, probably not going to be it's going to be the similar result. So you're asking for some compromise with all the parties to attempt to
Hash it
solve
out,
this problem.
Hash it out, work it out amongst yourselves, and then bring it back. Yep.
Old business, Ms. Ragsdale?
We have none.
New business?
New business next month, we will have 5 cases now. This case will be brought back to you. We have 3 rezoning cases for next month and 1 special use permit for an event venue.
It says planning and zoning items. Anything on that?
I don't know where that came from, so no,
Okay.
we're just
I'm
adjourning.
just reading from. Not, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.